Welcome to a very special episode of the Incomplete Worldcon Podcast. I'm Sarah, and with me are Isabel and Switch, and super special guest Craig Miller, former director of fan relations at Lucasfilm and author of Star Wars Memories. Craig, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you tell us about yourself and your history with Star Wars?
Well, back in 1976, I got involved first as a consultant on with Lucasfilm, or as we were then, Star Wars Corporation. Lucasfilm was just the part that made movies. Star Wars Corporation was the marketing, licensing, everything else side of it. In the 70s, you couldn't market a science fiction movie. Science fiction was thought of as stuff for little kids, that adults didn't watch it. It's not like today where every other movie is science fiction or superheroes. And the way you marketed movies in the 70s was you got your stars on talk shows, or you got People or Time magazine to write up articles about your movie. Well, no one was going to do an article on a science fiction movie, and no one was going to book unknown actors like Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher on a talk show. So Charlie Lippincott, who ran Star Wars Corporation at the time, knew about fandom and thought about marketing Star Wars directly to fans, which until that time, no movie studio ever did that. But he didn't know fandom. He just knew of fandom. So I sort of came in as someone to advise about that. And that summer of 76, I was involved that way. And by the next year, I was brought in full time as part of the publicity team with the title of Director of Fan Relations, to have the added specialty of going to conventions and dealing with fanzines and specialty publications like Starlog and Cinefantastique and things like that. And as time went on, my duties at Lucasfilm expanded to where I was producer for Lucasfilm on things like episodes of Sesame Street with R2-D2 and C-3PO, and I was operating R2-D2, and just all kinds of publicity and marketing activities related to Star Wars and eventually Empire Strikes Back, which is when I left Lucasfilm right after Empire.
Gotcha. So you were there right at the before the beginning, pretty much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to watch a video from the 1976 Worldcon, at which a couple guys came to promote their upcoming sci-fi movie. They gave a slideshow presentation, then had a half-hour Q&A, which is what we'll be watching today. The movie, of course, was Star Wars, and those guys were producer Gary Kurtz, marketing director Charles Lippincott, and the star of the movie, a 24-year-old Mark Hamill. No one in the audience had heard of Star Wars or Jedi or lightsabers, and as you will see, they were pretty skeptical of the whole thing. So, Craig, you were later the one presenting the slideshow for the audiences, a recreation of which will be shown at LAcon. Can you tell us more about that?
That's really two different things, but Charlie had put together the slideshow, and he'll be the one leading the Q&A in the video you're watching. I was in the room, but I was not on stage. And that slideshow, which tells the full story of Star Wars. Today, we would never tell that much detail. Even 3 years later, when I was doing slideshows at conventions about Empire Strikes Back, we sort of told the beginning of the movie and then stopped. Here, it was the entire thing. And for LAcon, which is the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm coming to Worldcon in Kansas City, Lucasfilm actually helped put together that slideshow again, and we'll be showing that at LAcon. Jerry Sullivan and I will be commenting on it and talking to people as a program item at LAcon this year. But Charlie did a version of that slideshow at 3 conventions, culminating at Worldcon. And we also did a exhibit room, a small, I don't remember how big it was, but a small function room where we had R2-D2, C-3PO, Darth Vader costumes, a lot of props, a lot of photos, a lot of McQuarrie artwork, Ralph McQuarrie conceptual artwork on display. And Mark Hamill was in the room a good part of the time, being the enthusiastic host and guide to whoever came in and wanted to see the stuff and ask questions.
That is so amazing. So there are people who are like, yeah, I met Mark Hamill in 1976. We hung out. He told me about Star Wars.
Mark was always a comics, mainly comics, but also science fiction fan. He used to go to conventions on his own as a fan. So he was very excited about doing it, very enthusiastic with it.
That is amazing. So we're all going to watch that Q&A video together now with the permission of FANAC and the Video Archaeology Project, who we thank very much. I've seen the video, and obviously Craig has seen it, but Isabel and Switch have not seen it. So we're going to get their very first reactions. Please share your reactions in the comments. And if you haven't heard our podcast, you can find us at incompleteworldconpod.riverside.com. Switch, would you get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way this is going to work today, we're just going to play the video. We should all be able to hear the video. And then if at any point there's anything where we want to maybe stop and discuss a bit, we can just kind of stop and start as needed. Just let me know what you need. Here we go. Mid-Americon.
Yes.
Is that still around?
Yes.
Wow. Worldcon 34, 1976.
Yeah, we're very lucky someone recorded this, because that was like not a thing in those days.
Yeah, it was very early home video technology. Like I can't remember if it was recording one.
Let's introduce you now.
Recording one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually had a photography teacher in college. I was a photojournalist, and he worked for United Press International from the 70s all the way through till I think the mid 2000s. And some of the stories about some of the equipment and some of what they had to do in order to get photo and video to be portable back in the day. It's crazy.
I remember it was a huge, big plastic cube with running reel to reel. And, my mind is in the 70s, it would be 2-inch, but maybe this was 1-inch, because 2-inch would have been so big.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine. But anyway, it was early portable video technology. And they recorded a bunch of things at the convention.
It's not like now where we've all got video cameras in our pockets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Producer Gary Kurtz. Paul. And the star of the film, Mark Hamill, plays Luke Skywalker.
Woohoo!
You're going to have to click on your... Oh, I did that already. His is ocean.
Some guy named Mark.
Who is
That's
just
so
learning how
crazy to think
microphones
about now.
work.
Yeah.
No. Hello? Hello?
He's got mic issues. I got light issues.
I think we might as well take some questions now. That's what we're here for. Yes.
Sure, nobody has any questions.
Princess costume. Have you ever seen any amazing covers?
This is a G-rated movie.
And we got to remember women's liberation at this time. We can't be... we aren't sexually selling
Women's
females
liberation.
or males in this film.
I didn't even hear the question.
Sexual exploitation.
After all, she's part of the royal family.
Oh, looks like she can too.
All right, well, this is a different part.
She's older now.
Right. She's wised up a bit.
Yes.
I don't want to throw ground glass into this, but are you people actually intending to lay on us a cliche plot again? And marvelous special effects, but where the hell is the plot in any of these science fiction movies?
So rude.
This
Can we pause for a sec?
depends.
What even was that question?
It was a very antagonistic question about, yes, the special effects, because they'd shown not any real scenes, just some it was photographs. They were projecting slides. But one of the things we knew going to conventions, even science fiction and comics fans in the 70s knew most science fiction films of the period were terrible. And at Worldcon, there was a lot of, oh yeah, Mr. Hollywood, why don't you do good stuff? Why do you do this terrible stuff? When we went in, we weren't necessarily, obviously you want people to see it and go, wow, this is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. I can't wait. But what we were really hoping for was people going, wow, this looks good. If they can really pull this off, this will really be good. Not, necessarily thinking we're going to sell them completely. And fortunately, at the 3 conventions we went to, WesterCon in LA, Charlie did a slideshow, San Diego Comic Con, Charlie did the slideshow, and he had Roy Thomas and Howard Chaykin, who did the Star Wars comic book adaptation for Marvel. They were on stage with him because they were big names in comics, and we knew that they would help bring an audience into the room at Comic-Con. And then in Kansas City, they had the exhibit room for throughout the convention. Before this panel, Charlie did a slideshow, and Alan Dean Foster, who wrote Alan wrote the novelization, which George's name is on, but he also wrote a sequel, which came out a little bit after, called Splinter in the Mind's Eye. Alan came up and spoke for just a couple minutes. And then at the end, they did this talk, and it was all part of helping to get people to say, maybe maybe this is something we ought to go see and give it a chance. What helped a lot, and you'll see from this discussion, is that Gary has actually read a lot of science fiction. Gary was knowledgeable about it, and he could answer some of the questions in a, he's not someone who's read everything that's ever come out, but he's read a lot of science fiction. He's widely read. And he could answer questions in a knowledgeable way. And that helped win a lot of the audience over to maybe they actually understand what they're talking about. And you'll see more of that as this plays out. But yeah, that first question there was, why aren't you doing good stuff? Why is Hollywood so terrible, science fiction?
Yeah, I also caught something in there that was less than feminist, let's say. They were talking about Carrie Fisher and how eventually she wised up. Like that just jumped out at me. So I want to see what else they say there.
I don't remember what the question was. I couldn't quite hear it, but I guess it was talking about Carrie's costumes, which are in the first movie are pretty modest. I mean, she's not wearing the bikini
until 83.
Yeah, that comes much later. But, so I don't know exactly what the question was. We all know from having seen Star Wars that, in fact, she wasn't a helpless maiden. She was take charge. She was smart. She was in command as much as possible throughout. So,
you call this a rescue? Give me that.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, there will be some moments. This is a science fiction convention 50 years ago.
I actually had two takeaways kind of from both what you said, Craig, and also just from what I'm already seeing in the room here, which is I'm a little amazed that the relationship between Star Wars and Marvel goes all the way back to the beginning. I knew there had been a long relationship there, but I didn't realize that they had already produced a comic book before the film even was released, or around the same time as the film release.
It was part of Charlie. Back in the 70s, there was limited licensing on movies. It was not very common. What licensing there was mostly television, because television's in your house every week. Movies are in the theater for a couple weeks and they're gone. So a lot of companies didn't want to license movies.
And they weren't really playing movies on TV yet. That wasn't really a thing yet.
Well,
I guess.
they were, but not the way they do now. There certainly wasn't. There wasn't cable. There wasn't streaming or any of that. There was the movie of the week kind of thing on the networks. But one of the things Charlie did was he had some of our licensed product, like the novelization, instead of coming out 2 weeks before the movie came out, as most novelizations did back then. It came out, I think it came out in October for a movie coming out in May. The Marvel comics that was a 6-issue adaptation, with the first issue appearing in March. So the third issue appeared with the release of the movie in May. So comic readers were seeing it, but they weren't getting to the end until after the movie came out.
The other thing that I took away from what we've already seen is that it's nice to know that science fiction fans were pushy know-it-alls even back then.
Yeah, some things don't change.
Shall we?
Yeah.
So what you mean by plot? This is an action adventure story, and it's set in outer space, just like John Carter of Mars or Flash Gordon or any other action adventure. It's not a science-oriented story.
Have fun with it.
It's not a science-oriented story.
For the movie.
Very
How
carefully.
do you use them when you fight with them? Well, they're used like samurai swords are. They're large swords. You don't duel with them like Three Musketeers style.
Do they bounce off each other, in other words?
Now, the beam is about 3 or 4 feet long, and it works like a regular sword. They cut through things, and when they hit each other, they spark and arc.
Okay, did you just have a handle and then later on stick it in the light, or?
That's part of it, but some of the shots we used front projection material on the sword, which reflects back to the camera. Yes?
How long is the movie going to be, in hours?
About 2 hours, sometime around 2 hours, whatever plays well. Certainly not longer than 2 hours, I hope. Yes?
Has a decision been made about a composer for the film?
Yes, John Williams is the composer. He did Jaws. The score will be, we hope that the score will be a large orchestra romantic score in the Max Steiner, Ernst Korngold, Alfred Newman tradition.
Oh my goodness. Can we
There's
just
no
stop for a
electronic-
second and talk about lightsabers and John Williams?
Yeah.
Mind blown.
So they were what I think surprises me here is that how forward they're being with their tricks, because Star Wars was so advanced for visual effects at the time, and he's just like, yeah, this is how we did it.
Yeah. Well, your people ask questions. Gary is very responsive. It doesn't really tell you anything. You can't go home and duplicate it.
Right.
There are fans that will try.
Well, yes, and certainly they did. And actually, some of what he described we did do, but it didn't work. So it changed, because originally the lightsabers were coated in this 3M material, like movie screens, that reflected light straight back to the light source, which was mounted on the camera. but it didn't really work very well. So that's why the lightsabers ended up all being rotoscoped, which is an animation process to put in the light and the color.
I love that at this point, the audience has seen pictures, but they haven't seen lightsabers in action.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to the movie theater in like 9 months or 8 months or whatever it was. And they're going to see them for the first time and be like, oh my God. And like cardboard paper
Not
tubes
just
will never be
see
the
them.
same.
Yeah.
Not just see them, but the sound.
Yes.
Right? When two swords clash. Oh my God, he's saying swords. He's saying swords, and so that's what I'm saying. When two lightsabers crash into each other, that sound, that's like, it lives inside of us now, and they haven't heard it. That's going to be great.
I gotta wonder, because I know part of your role, Craig, was like basically selling these folks on these ideas that had never really been seen before. And of course, this is the 70s, so we don't have the internet to post something like a YouTube video. And so, like, were there any moments at any time in your run with this film or any of the other like adjacent Star Wars films where you were like running into issues trying to like explain these things to people, like helping folks kind of understand concepts of something they had never experienced?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've all had that where someone wants you to explain something and you don't have the thing to show them. You have to try to explain it. And sometimes you just end up with, trust me, you'll love this. Just wait. And other times other times you explain it the best you can, or you make analogies and stuff like that. By Empire Strikes Back, mostly we were not telling people anything because it was all about keeping stuff as a surprise.
Interesting. So even though he's being pretty forward here with the initial movie, by the time the second movie came around, they started guarding some of the industry secrets again.
I mean, a lot of Star Wars in some ways was guarded, but it's also we're trying to sell people on going to see it, spending their time, spending their money, going to see it. And it's something they're coming into skeptical about. Because, at the time in the mid 70s, most science fiction movies were really bad. I mean, there were a few good ones, 2001 and 68 and the first Planet of the Apes movie and Silent Running, Soylent Green, some of those were pretty good big budget movies, but a lot of them were, Roger Corman was a friend, but Roger Corman's movies were not the epitome of great filmmaking, and his were some of the best of the science fiction movies of that period. So there's reason for an audience to be skeptical, and so you want to convince them that this is something they're going to enjoy seeing, that they want to go spend that time and money to go see.
You have to protect the magic a bit.
Yeah. I mean, 20th Century Fox in 1975, when they were considering making Star Wars, sent their market research people out to test the concept. And they tested two things. One was they went and they showed people a list of types of movies: romance, mystery, war, all kinds of different movies. Science fiction tested out at the bottom of the list in terms of what kind of movie you want to go see. They also tested titles. And, and this is something that's still done to this day, is you give them a list of titles and which of these titles sounds interesting, or then you give them another thing. Here is this title. What does this title say to you? Star Wars tested out so badly that the market research department said, don't make this movie. Don't make a science fiction movie. If you do make this movie, change the title. No one will go see a movie with war in the title. And no one understands what this title means. Remember, 1975, we're in the last years of the Vietnam War.
Mm.
An unpopular war. People are tired of it. Star Wars doesn't mean anything because no one has been selling that title tied to any concepts. So they're going, is it, movie stars having a divorce and fighting? Is it about movie stars going to Vietnam? No one knew what it meant. So they did not react to it as a thing that would make them want to go to the movies.
How did they react to John Williams? Because, I mean, we all know John Williams now. I've been to entire concerts that are just John Williams music. But who was
you
he
mean
in
the guy from
1976?
Jaws?
Well, you heard some reaction there in the audience, but honestly, most people have no idea who composers are. They're not familiar with them at all. And then so you have a small subset of people who go to movies who are familiar with different composers and have favorites and that sort of thing. John was fairly well known for this time period, mainly for Jaws. He'd done a number of other films as well. He also did the score for Lost in Space, the TV series, but back when he was still Johnny Williams. But, most people, I mean, obviously John was a brilliant choice, who did, now we've seen dozens of scores from him. Gary, before he got into filmmaking, when he first went to USC as a student, before he switched over to the film program, was a music major. And so he has a music background. And in fact, he got involved on the film side because a lot of the film students came to him with help with scoring their student films.
Wow. That cube right there is all my soundtracks. And I think like 20% of it is John Williams. It dives so much John Williams music. And so the idea that this room of people that were watching on this video think of him as the Jaws guy is insane to me.
Well, certainly at that point, that was pretty much what he was most famous for.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it going. We've got we're 3.5 minutes in.
Music.
Okay.
People like it.
What was the idea of laser pistols and flying spaceships and everything else? Why bother with swords at all?
Because laser pistols are too deadly in close quarters. The laser beam, they're not really lasers, but the high energy light beams ricochet off of things and can come back and kill you. So that you just need other weapons also.
Also, in one of the scenes, I find out that Ben Kenobi tells me that it's an old, outdated weapon that was used mainly during my father's time. Darth Vader has one from those times, but they're generally not in use anymore.
Only the few of the people use them. Yes.
Sorry, just to kind of chime in on that, the way that he phrased that.
Yes, I caught that.
Do we know if Mark knew that Vader was his father at this point?
He did not. He wasn't his father at this point, and Mark did not know.
Yeah, I totally.
Nobody knew
if that
at
had
this
been
point. It's just, coincidence.
A little unintentional foreshadowing from our movie star.
How do you handle things like explosions in a vacuum?
It's another galaxy. Anytime I had a question for George about, well, how does that work? He would say, well, this has no relation to time or space as we know it, so shut up and let's shoot it.
I love that.
Yeah, I know, but that's not the point.
But the question is talent, because you'll turn off a lot of people. Like, an explosion in complete vacuum makes clouds of smoke and loud noises. And
Right. No, the explosions that happen out in deep space have for what we know, the effect that you would expect. You see the light effect of the explosion, but there's no smoke and there's no sound from the explosion itself.
Big applause
They're
for
so
scientific
worried
accuracy.
about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love how an entire room is worried about scientific accuracy.
Yeah, they're so
yes,
worried
let's
about the
make
smoke
sure.
and the explosions.
And these are the same people that totally buy the concept of faster than light travel.
Wait until they hear about the
okay.
Kessel Run.
Yeah, whatever.
I gotta. I mean, at some point, Craig, did you ever run into like some science nerd that just wouldn't let something go? I mean, did you ever have to deal with like a particularly contentious fan that?
Well, there have been any number of people who get into that, and it's, some people there's no arguing with. It's like, you're right, it was a mistake, kind of thing. I talk about this in my book, Star Wars Memories, and I'll actually be at one of the days of LAcon. We're not going to be showing all of this video. We're going to be showing the slideshow that Charlie did and talking about it. And we'll talk a little bit about the video. We don't have a big enough time slot to show both parts. And this is online, so people can see it anytime. But I'm also going to be doing a slideshow based on Star Wars Memories. And one of the things I talk about is people come up and they're so concerned about some of these aspects. And there's the whole thing, one of you alluded to it earlier with Han Solo and the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. And that was something we did get a lot of reaction from fans on. Oh, parsecs. George made a mistake. Parsecs is a unit of distance. It's not a unit of time. And so one of the parts of my job was talking to George about, audience and fan reaction.
Yeah.
And I told him that we'd been getting that. And did we want to say, well, it's in this time period, they talk about parsecs because they go in like warping space, and it's just the way they measure the warping of space or something. And George said to me, and you can see part of this in the movie. George said to me, I didn't make a mistake, referring to himself. Han Solo made a mistake. He said, Han Solo is a great pilot, but he's a blowhard and he doesn't know anything about navigation or any of that. That's what Chewbacca does. He got it wrong. And if you watch that scene, and I show this during my talk, watch Obi-Wan's reaction to him saying, I made the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs. And Obi-Wan goes, sort of rolls his eyes and leans back. Obi-Wan knows he's full of shit. Now, Star Wars is full of, over these last 50 years, a lot of retconning of what this means and what that means. And there have been several other answers to the 12 parsecs questions. But in the summer of 1977, that was George's answer to me. And you can see it in Obi-Wan's face. So
say what you will about the Solo film. About sort of Han Solo's origin and all that stuff and the Millennium Falcon. They did that Kessel Run scene, and then he gets back, and I think one of the first things he does is says, I made it in under 15 parsecs. And everybody watching the movie at this point has known Star Wars for like 35 years. And so everybody kind of cock an eyebrow at that, like 15. And then the next time, and then he talks to somebody else like 3 minutes later, is like, yeah, I made it in under 14 parsecs. And then by the very end, the last time he mentions it, he's like, yeah, man, you'll never believe it. I made it under 13 parsecs. The number keeps going down every time he talks about it. And so it really kind of highlights just how full of shit he was. All right, I guess we'll keep going.
R2D2. No, I think that because it's small and because it has the pictures you saw mostly were the two-legged version, or in its two-legged position. It does look a little similar. This one we have 10 or 12 different versions of this that do different things, and there are a couple of them that are operated by humans because they're just things that we couldn't have done mechanically, but most of them are radio controlled.
Wow, yes. Even back then.
Even your anonymity from the studios, who's funding you?
This picture is being financed and distributed by 20th Century Fox, but it was a bit of a trick to get them to become interested in this type of film at all.
Universal turned it down, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I hope they'll stay around like they should all the time. There's no reason why we can't have some science fiction every year, just like we have some Western, some police shows, or some anything else. It's just that they're very, very expensive. And since Forbidden Planet, there really hasn't been a really good action adventure. And costs have escalated so much. In the 3 years we prepared this picture, the budget went up 20% a year just from inflation, just the cost of nails and lumber and plastic and metal and everything else. So it is very expensive for what you get out of it. But once you have it, a sequel to this picture would cost half as much because we still have a whole warehouse full of hardware in London.
That is interesting to hear him talking about inflation and cost of materials and cost of production. Craig, I saw you shaking your head a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, in theory, that's all true. In point of fact, after the movie, everything got junked because where are you going to put it? Who's going to pay for storing it? There was no expectation there would be, our hope at the time was the movie would be successful enough that we could make at least a low budget sequel.
Mm.
They're going to get into some figures in a few minutes here.
Yeah. But in fact, Empire cost nearly 3 times as much as Star Wars to make.
Well, yeah, they had to go all the way to Cloud City. Yeah. Bus tickets are not cheap.
People over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fictional device you use for explaining going faster than light.
Wait a minute.
We don't explain it.
See what I mean? Faster than light.
Oh, okay. He asked what device we use to explain going faster than the speed of light.
We should say
actually we don't have that much deep space travel. We just explain that they go into some kind of hyperdrive setup and they're there, and we go on with the story. But that's the only time it happens.
in a film like this, you don't have time for exposition to explain why you're doing certain things or what you're doing too. Otherwise, you're going to interfere with the story.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it's like
I'm thinking too about they asked about the cliched plot and whatnot. One time when we were shooting some of the action sequences, trying to get the princess out of the detention cell on the Death Star, one of the British crew members came up to me and he said, "Don't you think it's just a little phony that you have these 40,000 stormtroopers after you and you have not been hit once? I mean, can't you just get a little flack on your arm?" And by that time I knew, and George had really told me, and Gary had really told me, it's just not that kind of movie. It's a fairy tale. It's sweet, and it's a swashbuckler. It's a cliche, maybe that's the adjective to use, but sort of sums it up. It's just a romantic, the most romantic scene I have with Carrie. I get a kiss on the cheek, not on the lips, for luck.
Yeah. The farm on the desert planet collects moisture because there's no water. Those in a few of the slides, you saw those tall white towers in the background. It looked vaguely like oil derricks. They're moisture evaporators that absorb moisture out of the atmosphere, which then they collect and sell to other people on the planet.
And with all my friends going off to these incredible adventures, I stay home and collect water on a desert planet.
Where are the location shot stones?
The desert material was shot in southern Tunisia in the Sahara Desert.
Huh?
Matt Marta, Ajim, Tozur.
We used Tunisia because of the architectural style. The village that they go to, the spaceport, is a town called Ajim that's almost made up exclusively of domes. And Luke's homestead is a hole in the ground in a salt flat in a place called Matt Marta where the people really live in holes in the ground.
Wow.
Anybody else?
Yes.
But what was she the princess of?
Well, her king, a little bit of the history of this part of the empire is that in the old days there was a republic of various systems, and she was part of the royal family of a group of planets. And when the imperial forces took over, there were certain of the outland planets that didn't really want to go along with the imperial system, and she's all that's left of the royal family that used to rule her system. So she's kind of a symbol of the rebellion that's left. What's left of the. That's.
I love how well he knows all of this.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how much of it ended up changing. Like kind of changing, but kind of not. It's like he's kind of rattling off all of this backstory and information, but then we know now, 40 something years later that there's a lot of nuance in there that kind of gets massaged out over time, and things aren't exactly as he's presenting here just because they hadn't been invented yet if for the story. I gotta wonder because another thing that I'm noticing here as they're fielding these questions, Craig, your job was to sell the movie, obviously, but I feel like really in doing so, you really had to like change people's minds. It's almost like a lot of folks are going into this movie with an idea already of what they thought it was going to be. And it was really kind of your job to like explain to them, no, that's not what this is.
Well, I think that happens with every movie and every book you read. You go into it expecting something. You want to, whatever it is you're marketing. The only thing I've ever marketed for a living was movies, but whatever you're marketing, you want people to think it's going to be this, and you don't want to tell them something it isn't, because then they'll be disappointed, upset, angry because you did not deliver what you promised. So, you're walking a narrow path of, I want to get you excited, but I want to get you excited about the right things.
Yeah.
Because this is a tangent, but one of the problems happened exactly with Blade Runner when it came out. The studio, Warner Brothers, because science fiction had exploded after Star Wars and everyone wanted to be in the science fiction Star Wars business.
Yeah.
Sold Blade Runner as being the new, you love Star Wars? Come see Blade Runner.
Oh, no.
Star Wars is an action adventure movie. Blade Runner is a film noir that happens to be set in the future, that happens to be a science fictional frame, but it's a film noir. It could just as well have been about, Nazi spies in the 1940s.
Yeah.
People who went in looking for Star Wars were disappointed.
Yeah.
People who didn't want Star Wars, wanted more of a mystery, wanted more of a film noir, never went to see it because they were not sold that as what the film was about. So it was, while it's become a classic and we all love Blade Runner now, the audience at the time, it didn't really find the audience at the beginning because they were sold the wrong thing. And that's the path you have to walk, is sell the audience the right thing. I always told my clients, I can put butts in seats the first weekend of movies in a theater. After that, the movie has to deliver what we promise, and it has to be good at delivering what we promise. If if the right people had gone to see Blade Runner, it would have been much huger at the box office.
Yeah. Blade Runner really feels like it's one of those properties that sort of built a fan base over time, and people sort of found it later.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And so that's what you're doing with every movie. And back then, when we didn't have the internet, and you have to do a lot more either advertising or word of mouth or advance selling, most movies were being promoted a couple of weeks in advance. Maybe if you were getting articles about the movie stars, that would start appearing 3 to 4 weeks in advance. We were selling Star Wars 9 months in advance to audiences to build up that word of mouth.
Did you find that taking the approach of comparing one movie to another movie was easier, or was it misleading? How did you approach that?
We didn't really approach it as it's like this movie. It's just sort of, it's this kind of thing. And when there is a movie for some specific part of it, you can make that comparison. But that's kind of a cliche of Hollywood that, it's the Three Musketeers, but on an ocean liner, or that kind of thing. But
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, shall we?
Yes.
So that's her only royal connection anymore.
Plus, it's more fun to rescue a princess than just a regular person.
Yes.
A space pirate. I mean, what does he pirate?
He's a smuggler. He smuggles spice and chrome and other things that they control taxes on, and that's one of the reasons why he's in trouble with the Jabba the Hutt, and he needs money because he had to dump his last shipment because he was accosted by the Imperial troops who boarded and searched for it.
That would explain the hiding place of the nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes. Plus, I love my line. I pop out and I say, "Gee, it's lucky we had these compartments." And Chewbacca, the big,
How
looks at me
convenient.
just like you are right now.
Yes.
For that big event, you're actually setting a very strange language. You really make a language for it?
Yes.
Wookieese.
It's a cross between a variety of sounds that our sound effects supervisor has put together. That's all animal sounds that he's built a vocabulary around for the various things that he has to say. Pardon? Oh, yes.
R2 is pretty.
R2 is the one that has the wildest language. All right.
What were
the last question was the language of the ape man. Well, how are we fabricating that? He's not an ape anyway. He's more like a dog or a big furry bear with a dog's nose. Very huggable.
A giant capybara.
Yes.
Oh
What
God.
you want to do with science fiction, considering all the problems and the fact that it might not get accepted and all of that?
Well, about three years ago, while we were the question was why we wanted to make a science fiction film in the first place. And basically 3 or 4 years ago, when we were preparing American Graffiti, we were sitting around looking in the newspaper one night to see what to go see. And there wasn't anything. We said, gee, wouldn't it be great to be able to go see a John Carter or Flash Gordon kind of movie? That was really the basis for it. Yes.
There you go.
You mentioned John Carter. Have you ever given any thought to trying to put on one of the episodes of John Carter on Mars?
Well, the problem with any established thing, Flash Gordon, John Carter, Doc Smith, anything, is that everybody has their own idea of what it should be like. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's much more difficult. And also the rights for a lot of that stuff are tied up.
Who's your special effects artist and what has he done?
Well, we have several different aspects of the special effects. The mechanical and production effects, like making the robots work and doing pyrotechnics on the set, were done by an English special effects man named John Steers, who has done a lot of special effects work, most of the James Bond pictures and a lot of others of that type, plus some optical effects also. Our optical effects and miniatures are being done in Los Angeles by a group we put together ourselves of mostly younger guys who had worked with Doug Trumbull and other effects people in the past. Some had worked on 2001, some hadn't. Some had worked in silent running and various other aspects. But there aren't very many people left in the Hollywood system who are working in the special effects area, because we went through so many years when there were no effects pictures at all. They've either retired or they're about to retire. Our matte paintings are being done by Peter Ellenshaw, the Walt Disney Studios. And between Ellenshaw and Al Whitlock at Universal, that's about it for good matte painting artists. And Ellenshaw is a younger man. He's taken over from his father, who was the great matte artist at Disney for many, many years. And Al Whitlock is about to retire, and he really doesn't have anybody apprenticing him. I mean, he has a few people, but no one was really that interested in the field, which is a real shame.
That's what really scared me the day George told me that in 20 years or so they won't be able to make movies. Rather than advancing, people are dying off and not passing on the secrets. And it kind of, well, I was depressed for the rest of the day. Let me put it that way.
All of our people are younger, all of our model makers and things, and they may stay in the field and they may not, because there isn't a whole lot of work. Right now there is, because between Steven Spielberg's picture and our picture and what Irwin Allen is doing and a couple of other people, everybody is working. But next year there may be nothing and they won't be able to work, so they may get out and become encyclopedia salesmen.
Wow. So, I'm sorry, this sounds like Star Wars kind of saved the entire special effects industry.
Well, yes, pretty much. I mean, the truth be known, I mean, Gary's quite right there. There weren't a lot of special effects movies being made. It was the success of Star Wars that really exploded everything, and we started getting so many more science fiction movies. A lot of them at first were terrible, and still to this day, not every movie is a winner, but there's a lot more now that obviously it's continued. But it's you get one success, and especially as huge a success as Star Wars turned out to be, it keeps causing more and more to build off of it. And if science fiction movies stop being popular, that it would go away again. Of course, now so much of it's done in computer, so we don't have as much what they used to call floor effects, or they're not building miniatures of spaceships and things anymore. It's all done in CG. But still, yes, to a great extent, it was the success of Star Wars that kept that aspect of the industry going.
At one point, he mentioned there that a lot of the matte paintings and stuff were done by Disney folks, which not only did Marvel have a relationship with Star Wars right from the very beginning, but apparently so did Disney. And I think that's fascinating. Do you know if, like, at the time, well, like when Disney's people came in to kind of help out, was Disney trying to take over? Were they sort of like, sort of the big mouse in the room, or was it more collaborative?
It wasn't like that at all. In fact, to my knowledge, and I was not involved in every deal or anything, but to my knowledge, Al Whitlock and Peter Ellenshaw, were hired on a freelance basis. They weren't hired through Disney. Their contracts with Disney allowed them to work on projects at other studios.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
they did. So at that point, there wasn't a studio relationship. It was just
Gotcha.
with individuals.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, it's with the relationship being what it is now, and Disney buying out Lucas and all that. Like it's interesting to see how things were sort of interconnected, not through the studios necessarily, but through the individual artists that happen to have Disney on their resume. You know, the line about a big huggable dog or capybara was also just kind of killing me, because they have to sell the idea of what Chewbacca is.
Yeah, because, you know, he's a big, furry, humanoid-shaped creature. But it's today you say Wookiee and everyone knows what that means. Back then, what is he?
Yeah.
Sasquatch.
And I appreciate that at no point is it ever like alluded to or suggested that he's a pet.
No.
Which is so obvious now, but like back then, I could only imagine what was going through people's heads about, like, wait, this is like a giant walking dog? What?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everyone, you know, it's whatever it is. Though, you know, we read science fiction, we go to science fiction movies. We're used to having those kinds of concepts show up, and you read it or see it and you accept it. You don't have the cognitive dissonance of, I don't understand, how could he be on 2 feet kind of thing. He must be a dog. We're watching stuff like this because we're interested in those kinds of concepts. But until you see it, you don't know what it is. You have to add it into your frame of reference.
Wow.
That's what happened to all the people. A lot of the people in the earlier times, they just couldn't make it in the business, and they had to do something else. Yes.
What other science fiction movies, other than a sequel to this one, are you and some of the other people planning to do at this time?
I haven't thought much about it yet. I've got two other projects of different kinds to do first, and then we'll see. But I'd like to do another one or more. Just really, the cost is the critical factor, because it drives you crazy. Especially, it's like most of you don't like Space 1999 because of their plots and their stories and the science and a lot of things. But for television, the cost of each show is so cheap, and I mean the cost that they have to make the shows for. I think they probably could do better within the limits that they have, but the pressure on television is very, very tough. It's hard to do anything that's out of the ordinary. It's easy to make Kojak and police type shows because you have no technical problems, but anything that has special technical problems when you're on a 3-week per episode schedule can drive you crazy.
Yes.
That guy really just asked, what else you got?
Showed Luke riding some kind of strange desert beast or something. Is that going to be stop action animation?
No, it wasn't Luke. It was one of the stormtroopers driving or riding on what looks like a dinosaur. No, we don't have stop action. He's never seen as prominently as you see him in the slides. He's off in the background at the top of the hill. And then we have another one and several other strange beasts parked at the cantina where they go into to find the man to charter the ship. They're just tethered outside, but that's as far as we get with the animals. We just sort of pass over them. They move their heads and wag their tails and things, but we don't see them walk around.
Are they miniatures?
No, they're full size.
They're full size manga.
Mm-hmm.
I climbed inside one time. They were covered with. I was reading an article about David Bowie inside one of those big lizards. That he had the inside was all newspaper. I climbed up in his belly.
Yes.
Say again, please.
How well developed the sorcery act?
It's not explained very well. It's just touched on that Alec Guinness is a former Jedi Knight and is a sorcerer. He does a few little things throughout the picture that give you the feeling that he has special powers that no one else has.
Yes.
Oh. Who are the Jedi?
Go ahead. I'll get you next.
They were an old order of warriors, much in the samurai tradition, who were the main peacekeepers in the Republic before the Empire took over. Most of them had been killed off, and Alec Guinness is supposedly one of the last ones that are around at all in the solar system.
Yes.
Mark's ADD is just on full display here, and I kind of feel bad for the guy.
I'm wondering if it's not that he's bored. Like, enough with these stupid questions. Like,
I mean, that might be that certainly could be part of it. I can't believe that guy said, "What else have you done?" or "What else you got?" You know, like just the halfway through, and the guy's already done talking about Star Wars. But I did want to ask Craig, because there's another theme that I'm kind of picking up on here, which is we haven't really touched on yet, which is the idea of selling magic to a science fiction audience, which is, I think, is something else that really sets Star Wars apart. Yeah. At what point do people start to accept that there are things that cannot be explained by science happening in this movie? Like, what was that like, and how did you go about that?
You know, that really didn't come up, that that I can recall. I mean, within the movie, there's this sort of hand waving that Obi-Wan does about the Force. It's this thing that's, you know, it's within us, it surrounds us, it binds the universe.
These aren't
together.
the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like, and I really have. You're right. You would think there would have been pushback on that, especially from some of the people who we've heard in the audience, but I really never heard much of that.
Huh.
You know, they're always the people
I've heard of that today.
So,
I mean, yeah, there are people who don't like fantasy in their science fiction, right? Like, you got your peanut butter and my chocolate kind of thing. And when I have told people about the fantasy elements, they're like, there's no fantasy. It's science fiction. It's like, okay. You've never heard of the Force, obviously.
I mean, my theory is that Alec Guinness could sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly it. That's I guess what I'm alluding to is he says this whole thing about it binding us. It's like, oh, okay, it's like atoms. I don't see them, but they're there. You know,
and then midichlorians came later.
Because of magic. It's because of germs. You know, I've never seen a germ, but you know, so we're just accepting it as science.
It is absolutely baffling to me that they're completely fine with the Force, but God help you if there's smoke in those explosions.
Yeah.
Well, because smoke doesn't actually happen, but the Force is totally believable.
Right.
Yep.
One of the things that
fascinated
me in the summary in 2001 was the theory or the idea that Kubrick had changed his movie in order to appeal to diverse audience groups. How important is that in a screenplay, something like the Star Wars, and do you have rewrites in the middle as a result of trying to appeal to diverse audience groups?
Well, it does happen sometimes, and you know, and his question is, do you change the concept of the picture while you're writing sometimes to appeal to diverse groups in the audience? It's very difficult to tell what those groups are out there, and you're better off in a lot of cases making the movie for yourself. And if some people like it and some don't, that's the way it goes. But to try to sit down and figure out what the various groups are going to like is impossible. Now, you can make certain adjustments. There are certain things. We went through 8 or 9 different screenplays, mostly for cost reasons and also condensing the story into a cohesible unit. Some of the things that were in the original screenplays were almost impossible to do, like having 300 Wookiees on the Wookiee planet. Just physically, we couldn't find the people or had the makeup people to handle that.
That's a lot of pairs of stills.
In our case, we went through that. But basically, we're making the films for ourselves. It was what we would like to see. And it has to be that way because you have no other basis for your criteria. You can do all the research you want, but it really wouldn't be worth much when the film comes out. Yes.
I have to say, these questions seem really, I think you said earlier, antagonistic. I mean, that question was basically, so if your test audience sees the movie and it sucks, how do you, what's your backup plan? And I feel like that's been the whole tenor of this press conference. Like, if your movie sucks, when your movie sucks, how much does your movie suck? And it's just like, you don't know anything about this movie. All you've seen is pictures. Like, give us a moment, give us a chance to do this.
Yeah,
and it just, everything about this feels really negative.
Well, to an extent, you are correct, and that's certainly some of the audience. There was a lot of audience that was came in hoping to be sold, hoping that they're going to see something good. But there were other people who came in, and we've heard from a few of them, who came in with antagonism already, and they were just going to prove how the movie was not going to be any good. And we all know people like that. They've made up their mind.
I don't know a single person like that. What are you talking about? I've never met.
There's no people like that in fandom.
Never met a sci-fi nerd like that in my life.
Yeah, they've made up their mind, and they're going to prove to you that they were correct, even if they came in with no information and continue to have no information.
Yeah.
But and so you hear. And I mean, it's the problem of the internet today. You hear from the loud complaining voices. You don't hear from the people who are happy or are willing to wait and see. And so it feels much, much more negative than the average actually is. But yeah, there were definitely people who came in convinced that there was no way it could be any good. And like I said, the hope for an event like this is you're going to convince enough people that maybe it might be good. The ones you can really sell, great. But you want to sell the majority on it's worth getting to know more. It's worth going to see. It's worth buying a ticket and investing the 2 hours. And that's what we went for, and that's what we built on, and that is the result we got. But there's some people just want to be right, even though they come in with no knowledge, just a certainty of based on nothing.
And as we all know, Star Wars famously did not do well and never had a sequel. So I guess they were right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Huge flop.
Or is it one motive?
Well, part of that, whether we'll make a series or not, depends on how successful the film is and whether the distributor is interested in going further with it. There's a sequel novel being written, and maybe more novels based on the characters and the ideas. But whether or not we make any more films is up in the air right now.
What?
George Lucas wrote the screenplay. It's his original story.
Are you going to be playing this straight or for camp and cute?
No, it's a straight adventure. There are humorous overtones in certain of the scenes, but otherwise it's a straight action adventure.
It's not camp. It's not tongue in cheek, but funny things do happen. Robots have most of the funny lines.
Yes.
How much money do you have to make when we break even?
Well, the picture will cost a little over $7 million direct cost. So we would have to gross back to the distributor in rentals, not box office, but rentals to the distributor, probably around 18 or 19 million to break even. That's one of the reasons why more science fiction pictures aren't made.
7 million.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody go see it.
Ended up being about 10.5, 11.
Man, I don't think you could get 2 actors for that these days.
Well, times change. It was 50 years ago.
contest, was there ever any risk involved and did you use doubles?
There are a couple of times when we had to use stuntmen, but not for Mark. When he swings across the canyon, why he actually swings across. Of course, the whole floor is littered with 6 layers of cardboard boxes, so it wouldn't have mattered if he fell.
I was thinking more when the Tuscan Raider gave me that rousting.
Oh, yes.
My back looked like hamburger meat the next 3 days.
Of course, the Tuscan Raider who was beating on you was the chief stuntman anyway.
I know, but through those eye holes he couldn't see, kept stepping on me.
Anything else?
Yes, way back.
Right. No, what happens is that that's part of that's what you have to go see. There's that battle. We left that open-ended on purpose. Yes.
I don't remember what the question was.
Sorry, what was that, Craig?
I said I don't remember what that long question was that Gary didn't answer.
I was kind of thinking to myself as I'm like listening to this, like God bless whoever did their best to try and bump the audio for some of these questions, because they obviously didn't have a mic in the audience for us to be able to hear the questions that are being asked. And the guys on stage are trying their best to like repeat some of the questions. But that to me sounded like one of those like, hey, what happened when blah, 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 blah. And he goes, you just have to see the movie.
Thinking about it, I think since I know that Charlie told most of the story, it's probably about the final battle with the Death Star and what happens there. Is my guess as to what he was asking about. And Gary says, well, you'll just have to go see the movie to find out. I think that's what was going on there, but I can't remember for sure. And yeah, it was very old equipment. This has been bumped up, the image, because there wasn't special lighting done for it. It was just in the room lighting. Yeah. It wasn't very bright. The cameras back then were not very good. And of course, the audio was very limited to just source sound pickup for the camera. So that we can see it at all is kind of a miracle at this point.
So I have a question that just occurred to me. What was this being recorded for? Because it wasn't going to be streamed on the internet. It wasn't going to be distributed on VHS. What were they hoping to do with this?
Since there was no internet or VHS at that point. I don't know what the intent. Scott Imes was a fan in the Kansas City area of the period. And I think he was just experimenting with home-ish or semi-pro video recording and recording a number of things that happened at the Worldcon that happened to be in Kansas City that year. I don't know that there was ever any intent. He did record a lot of stuff, not just at Worldcon, but other places. And it ended up archived, I think, through the college there. He was somehow affiliated with the college. I don't really remember. And a number of fans have since been involved with trying to maintain the collection, upgrade it so it's viewable now. But I don't know that there was any particular intent for it at the time. I could be completely wrong. They may have had something in mind, but I don't remember it being for anything in particular other than just historical purposes.
Gotcha.
So the fact we have this at all, let alone digitized and publicly available, is kind of a miracle unto itself.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to watch this later, we'll put the link in the show notes or wherever we can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The description box below this video will have links to the direct video, then, of course, links to a few other relevant things. But we are so close to the end of this thing. So let's wrap up the last 5 or so minutes, and then of course, we'll at that point we'll be able to thank Craig for his time.
Yes.
Is the filming complete, and if it has it been viewed by any general test audience?
No, the production photography, the principal photography in London and Tunisia is finished and is being edited right now. We're doing opticals, miniatures, and special effects, which will take at least another 6 months. So the whole film won't even be together until March.
I'm going to take 2 more questions, then we're going to finish because they want us out of here. And before I take the 2 questions, I'll just say this. We are in room 364 with some paintings and props and things like that. We'll be there till 9 tonight. And then I'll be at the same room from noon till 6 tomorrow and from noon till 4 on Monday. But Gary and Mark will only be here today. I also might mention that around 11, or I suppose later because it's running late tonight, you can see George Lucas's first science fiction film, which is now called Electronic Labyrinth, which was then called Thex 1138 EB, which was an award-winning short film he made while at USC in the 60s. And tomorrow night, they will be showing the feature, Thex 1138. Which he did, and it came out around 1970. 71. And I think few of you have probably, maybe some of you have seen it, but it's been very difficult to see in the last few years. Warner's has made it very hard.
Well, they didn't like the film when it first came out. And it also got trapped in a feud between Warner Brothers and Francis Coppola's organization when they backed out of financing his group of pictures, and it was the only picture produced under that program, and it was finished just about the time they had a falling out. So they also didn't understand the picture and just didn't really know what to do with it. It did very well on its initial release. We got pulled right away, and there are no 35 prints left that we know about. It's in 16, and you can still see it in 16, but there are only few. We have 2 or 3 prints of our own. But and there are some scattered around, but you can't get them from Warner Brothers anymore.
Yes.
Yes, to both. It's the first major role for Mark and the first major role for Carrie Fisher. She's only been in one other film, Shampoo. It's on for about 3-4 minutes.
And the first major role for Harrison, who plays Hank.
Yes, it's also Harrison Ford's first major role.
Last question.
I've done lots and lots of television and lead roles on television, but this is the first feature I've done.
Last question.
Buster Crabbe one time when he was on the Tomorrow Show was complaining that when he was back there doing Char's End and all those things, that he really became stereotyped for those types of roles. What if your thing really goes over great and you become a science fiction or fantasy?
I love science fiction. And I'm not saying that just to be popular. This is my 4th convention. It's the first one I've been invited to, and all the others I paid for and got there myself. And I like to work, and I love Star Wars.
All right. Thank you very much for turning out, and we hope you'll come and see the film.
We have some sheets up here if anybody's interested in the film too. Information sheets.
I guess that's the video. I mean, we've got like a minute left or so, but I feel like it's going to be mostly just
credits. Yeah.
Credits. Yeah, Mid-American. I gotta ask, Craig. There's something that they touched on right at the end there that occurred to me. How much? Because your job was marketing, right? Like your job was to sell films and put butts in seats, as you put it. So, how much of your role was affected by these like personal fallings out with these studio heads or like weird like studio relationships that would like come unraveled while you were dealing with a client?
Well, with Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, that was never an issue. In fact, Fox, 20th Century Fox, which was the studio behind Star Wars, was much learier of the film while it was being made, but by the winter of 1976, there was an assemblage of the film. No special effects yet, no music track, or no, he's not the real music track. Some sample cues were in it that the executives at Fox saw, and even the ones who were not enthusiastic about the film turned around and thought, oh, we're really going to be able to do something with this movie. This is going to be a good movie. They still didn't get science fiction. They didn't think science fiction was going to be a huge success, but they thought by that time it was going to be a good movie. And the proof of that is the way movies are used to be put into movie theaters is it was called bidding. Every theater bid to be the theater in their area to run a picture. And it was based on, there's a formula based on what percentage the distributor gets, what percentage the theater gets of the box office. And there's things that add on to that I won't go into, and you did that in every region, and for they called it a clearance, how close the next theater would be that would also be running it. Were we going to be the only theater in town, or the only theater for 6 blocks, or whatever. But after that studio screening, the head of distribution for Fox sent a memo to all of his people all over the country, upping the demands for what they should get. They should go to the premier theaters in every city, get the highest rates possible. This was going to be a big movie, and they needed to, make an effort on it. He clearly was sold on the movie being successful and giving that information to all of his key people.
Wow.
And 50 years later, here we are.
Yeah. And Empire Strikes Back was, of course, after Star Wars had come out and been successful, was a completely different thing. It was, in fact, Fox just had the distribution rights. They were not financing the movie. They weren't the owner of the movie. George was able to arrange for direct bank financing himself and through, obviously, to some extent personal, but through Lucasfilm. So it was a Lucasfilm-made movie distributed by Fox as opposed to a Fox movie.
Gotcha. And so one other thing I noticed about that Q&A was, and Isabel, I don't know if you noticed this too, I don't think a single woman asked a question. Do you think there were any women in the room?
Oh, there were certainly women in the room, but in the 1970s, the percentage of women attending conventions, science fiction conventions, was significantly lower. There were definitely a bunch of women there, but today, a world science fiction convention, you guys have been to them. What would you say? 60-40 male to female, something like that? Maybe? Am I?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, closer to even.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
and depending on the
people
demographic,
asking the questions.
Yeah.
But asking
the
questions, yes. And I don't remember noticing in the room, but back then, the female attendance was probably more like 20% maybe female, not 40% or more female.
The women in the room didn't have any burning questions about Carrie Fisher's outfit?
I mean,
or her hairstyle.
Right.
We saw at least one woman come up and ask Charlie, whisper a question to Charlie early on in the on the video. Yeah. The only people you could see other than Mark Gary and Charlie were a couple of people who walked by the camera who were both guys and the one woman. But yeah, you're right. I don't know that there were any women who asked questions in that interview. Although some people, I couldn't have told you if they were a Wookiee, because we couldn't really hear what they were saying.
Right. There was at one point, there was some conversation around the particularly the special effects teams that worked on the movie and how they had gone out of their way to hire a lot of younger folks, but also they showed a fair amount of appreciation for older folks in the effects industry handing down some of their techniques and knowledge and information and experience. And I got to say, Craig, it really felt like it was emblematic of what we're doing here today. Having you here, having you available to sort of talk about, what it was like to try and sell a film in the 70s and some of your experiences going back to what is personally my absolute favorite franchise of all time. You're not seeing a lot of Star Wars stuff here in my office because, frankly, the rest of my house is filled with it. And I would even admit on camera here that my wedding anniversary is May 25th. And so, it's incredibly special to me that we got to do this today. And it means a lot to me that you were willing to come and give us your time and be so generous with your experience and your knowledge. And so I really want to thank you.
I mean, I'm a fan. I grew up in fandom, comics and science fiction. That's how I ended up coming to Star Wars, was because of being part of fandom, and it always have been. So it's a big part of what and who I am, and it's areas I love. And most of the movies I've worked on were genre movies, science fiction and fantasy, a couple of horror films, but mostly science fiction and fantasy. The last 30 some years I've been writing animation, and an awful lot of that is fantasy and science fiction. So it's always been part of what I am and who I am.
And it's something that we all share.
Yeah.
Always great to meet one of our own.
Yes.
Anybody have any last thoughts or questions before we wrap?
Craig, so people can find you at Worldcon. You have the slideshow is showing Monday at noon, as I recall.
The slideshow that is part of what this video was. Yeah, that's Monday. I believe on Thursday, I don't have my schedule in front of me, but I believe on Thursday afternoon, I'm doing my Star Wars Memories slideshow. And I'm on a couple of other program items, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, so look up Craig on the schedule. He'll be there. Say hi. If you have questions or thoughts about this video, please leave them in the comments. Isabel, Switch, last thoughts?
I learned a lot today.
Right?
I'm just still trying to digest some of that. And I think it's just so exciting to see these folks when they were so young, and just to learn, what it took to put some of this stuff together. And that $7 million thing, wow, that just blows my mind. That just blows my mind.
It ended up more like 10.5, but even so, today that's,
that's
would
nothing.
Be, a low budget movie.
I think I've got that in my wallet. I'll just let me pull out some pocket change.
I was going to say, George Lucas could just pull that out of his wallet right now.
Yeah. Man, this was absolutely incredible for me. And so I want to thank you again. Thank you everybody for watching this. I know this was a long one. And if you stuck it around this far into the video, honestly, even if you don't have a question, would you please just throw us a comment to let us know that you were here all the way to the end? Just say hi, Switch, or hi, Craig, or whatever you feel like in the comments. This is our first video that we've produced for the podcast, and what an incredible opportunity, and what an incredibly special thing for us to be able to bring to all of you. So thank you for watching all the way through, and Sarah, I'll let you take us out.
Okay, well, thank you, Craig. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Switch. Remember to check us out at the Incomplete Worldcon Pod.riverside.com, and we'll see you at Worldcon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.